Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 55 of the Former Action Guys podcast, and I'm your host, Justin Kramer. And this week I got my buddy Alex on. He actually just medically retired from the Marine Corps. 0321, he was a recon baby, came in on a recon contract. So he talks about, some of the training he did, BRC and stuff like that. Talks about jump training and stuff. Talks about his deployment to Afghanistan with Reconnaissance Battalion, doing not only patrolling and stuff around the Sangin area, but doing heliborne operations, direct action, like raids and stuff like that in country. So really good discussion. We're both Evo guys. We're both car people. So we talk a little bit about that at the end, get into some shooting. We get into a little bit of everything here. So you're going to enjoy it. I hope so. Make sure to check out my website, jkramergraphics.com. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's J Kramer, Former Action Guys, on YouTube. And then check out the Instagram pages, Former Action Guys on Instagram and J Kramer Graphics on Instagram, both. And all right, well, enjoy the show.
I'll set it up on here. There we go.
All right. Well, hey, welcome to the show, bruh.
Thanks, man.
Dude, it's been a long time, man. I haven't seen you in a couple years, honestly. I think.
Yeah, man. Since those old parking garage days.
Yeah. So, you were with Recon over here, out here at First Recon Battalion, but I didn't know you from that. Like, we met randomly at a car meet, but we were both JTAC, so it was kind of like, oh, what's up? Oh, what do you do? Yeah, one of those things. So.
And we both rolled the Evos, too.
Yeah, we both had the Evos. I'm sure the listeners love. I've had a few people on that have had Evos, and we'll sit here and talk about them for like 20 minutes or so. So we'll definitely get into that. But do you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell us where you're from and why you ended up joining the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so I don't really claim anywhere from where I'm from. I was born in Monterey, California originally. My dad was an Army guy, so we moved. When we got stationed somewhere new, pretty much almost every 12 months, almost on the dot, until he got to about E89. That's when we were around Savannah, Georgia, and stuff like that. But whole life, I was kind of, I'd say, groomed, so to speak, to be a pilot. My dad wanted me to join the Air Force, be a fighter pilot, and I was all about it too, and then I realized once I got older and I started getting civilian hours that if I was a fighter pilot, I wanted to go and dogfight, and that doesn't happen really anymore. So I chose the next best route, which is doing everything on the ground. So I wanted to go do the most baddest thing I could find.
What did your dad do in the Army?
He was a crew chief on Black Hawk. So
okay. Last
place we were out of was Hunter Army Airfield, Savannah. So
nice.
With the Ranger boys and 160th and everything like that.
That's cool.
But he was a command sergeant major at that point, so he wasn't on the birds anymore.
Yeah, that sucks, man. Getting out kind of, it was kind of bittersweet kind of thing. Like I wanted to get out, and I know I'm sure it was the same with you. We can get into you getting out and stuff like that as well, being medically retired actually later on. But the moving up into like the positions where you're at a desk rather than like doing the cool stuff, it just was like somewhat unbearable. Like the thought of that, being told what to do by a sergeant major until you make it up to E8 or E9 or E9 really, just having some sergeant major harassing you the whole time, and not even getting to do the fun stuff anymore. I was like, this does not seem to be worth it. I don't know what you're.
Yeah, my last year about were me being the company gunnery sergeant of H&S Company, because at that time I was on the med board and everything, and that was a big awakening because I'd been in the teams ever since I finished schoolhouse. So that was it wasn't necessarily a culture shock because I knew how to do like a lot of the admin stuff. It's just I never really had all that stuff on my plate.
Yeah,
to worry about it.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden, I'm like in charge of annual training for an H&S company and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, no.
It all changes overnight. One day someone looks at you and you're like, hey, I need you to take care of this. And then suddenly you're an admin dude doing like rosters on Microsoft Excel and shit, What year did you end up joining? And what was the MOS that you came in with?
So I joined 09 when I turned 17. And I joined on a recon contract, so I went straight through boot camp, SOY, and then into recon school.
Okay. Now, looking back, would you still tell yourself to join at 17?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know personally, I wanted to join when I was 18. You know, it was right after September 11th. I was a senior in high school and stuff, but I got arrested and shit. And I was super butthurt. Like, it took me a couple of years to end up coming in after I got arrested. I was super butthurt about it, but then in hindsight, I'm like, well, I spent a couple years like living on my own, working like a regular job, you know, and all that stuff. It gave me a different kind of perspective before I joined. So I was kind of appreciative because it seems like a lot of guys come in the Marine Corps thinking that it's just going to be like a frat party, you know, and then they get there and they realize that like for the first 2 years you're like the working party dude, you know, or the first year and a half or whatever. You know, it's not as like carefree, I guess, as you would think. I don't know about your personal experience, but
I came into it with kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of the only thing it was always the military, whether it was going to be flying or doing what I ended up doing. But I was around all that so much that I kind of knew like, there's going to be lots of fuckery and you're going to have to do blah, blah, blah. Because my dad like gave me those speeches and tried to scare me away from going enlisted and like being in the infantry side of things and everything. He was like, no, he was freaked out when I signed my contract. He's like, you're going to be an 11 Bravo. And I'm like, that's not what this is. Like, I mean, I'm not going to be flying in that jet, but I'm not going to be an 11 Bravo. Like, I'm not even in the Army. So
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. My dad was in the Army as well, and he was not very happy when he found out I was joining the Marines. He was trying to talk me into joining the Army, anything in the Army, but I did not. I was the first in my family to join the Marines. The same for you, or did you have more than just your dad in the military?
It was pretty much all on my dad's side. So him and then my grandfather. That was pretty much my mom's kind of step grandfather, if you could say that, was in the German army during World War II, and then my same on the other side was in the American Army in World War II, which is kind of wonky. And then my mom's real father was in the Italian Army in World War II. So it's kind of wonky in my family how it went.
You know,
but obviously my dad was stationed in Germany in the late 80s, so about himself some German wives.
Family dinners, man. You come together and everybody's just fighting. You're reenacting the war. That's pretty funny. So you're the first dude I've talked to on here I've never talked to you about I've never talked to you about your career. Like, I know a bunch of recon guys, but me and you, we've always just talked about cars. So I know you've deployed and stuff, but true. I literally know nothing about what you've done while you were in recon and stuff like that. So you're the first guy I've had on that has come in under a recon contract. You know, got the recon baby kind of, you know, moniker following you around. What was SOI and like boot? So you finished boot camp. Did you go East Coast or West Coast?
Yeah, West Coast.
Okay, and then you go to SOI. Obviously, in SOI, since you're a recon contract, do you go through any kind of different kind of training there, or do you go through like an 03-11 into?
So when I went through, it's different now because dudes don't even go. So nowadays, if you're a recon contract, you don't even go through the 03-11 package. You go to MCT and whatever, which is kind of wonky. I don't know why they changed it like that. But when I went through, you did the whole thing. You went to the split. You went rifleman. At some point after the split during the 03-11 side of it, all the contracts had to go to a recon NDOC, and then all the volunteers had the opportunity to go to the NDOC. So you pretty much went over in a mass group.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of dudes like wanted to go try the NDOC. So the recon instructors showed up. Everyone was afraid of them, and we pretty much did like a PFT. Went to the pool. Had to do like swim qual. I think back then it was like up to swim qual 1 or something like that, and then they kind of thrashed you a little bit in the pool, and it was pretty apparent really fast. Like that was the first, like I'd always heard like people when I was in MEPS, or not even MEPS, when I was in DEP or whatever it was called, they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna be the guy that's running up the alpha shelf when everyone finishes SOI. And I never really like thought much of it. I was like, okay, the alpha shelf, I don't know what that is. But then no shit, graduation day at SOI, everyone's like happy, and then all the recon contracts are kind of like standing by themselves, like running, getting in the PT gear, and then getting ready to suffer like 10 times worse than they thought they were suffering in SOI. So it was kind of a humbling experience, to say the least.
Do you roll right into so
Yeah.
you do the
Yeah.
indoc while you're in SOI? As soon as you graduate, you roll right
Mhm.
into BRC?
Literally, when everyone was with their families at SOI graduation, we were standing on the, not the parade deck, but on the little courtyard in front of the SOI barracks
Mm-hmm.
with all of our sea bags packed and PT gear. The recon guys come pick you up, and they're like, they give you a short little speech, and they're like, "Welcome to RIP," and then they sprint up those hills next to the SOI barracks, and you're running behind them with your sea bags, and you're like, "What the fuck did I do?"
What did I do?
Yeah, you roll straight into it. Yeah,
That's
at least I did. I don't know how it goes now.
yeah. How long was RIP for you? Was it like 2 weeks? Like a 2 week thing?
So I was actually, so when I started, it was called MART. RIP used to be the Recon Indoctrination Platoon. So if you wanted to lat move over to Recon, they would send you to an actual Recon unit into a RIP platoon, and you would be at the actual unit getting, thrashed by the Recondos.
Yeah.
So I was in MART, which was a Marines awaiting recon training, and you basically, it's kind of like pre BRC, but you're there waiting for a seat to pick up for your BRC class. So you wake up at 4:30 in the morning, run to the chow hall, ruck run back, get your pool bag, ruck run to the pool, get thrashed in the pool until like noon, ruck run back, change over, and then do land PT until like 16 or 1700.
How many guys?
And you do that every day until it took me 3 months until I had an opening.
How many guys did
So
you
it wasn't
lose
fun.
just in that? Like guys just waiting to go to training that were just like, fuck this, like I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, so many. Because that was the thing, like in BRC they actually like try to teach you, but once you get past a certain training day in recon school, it's like, okay, we're teaching you, we've seen your intestinal fortitude. In MART, it's kind of like, we're going to test your limits and we're going to try to break you at every point possible, because we're not even going to give you a chance to get into BRC if you're not going to hack it in BRC. So there were times we'd be in the pool where we'd hear the infamous quotes like, we're not going to, like, we'd be treading in the deep end, for example, passing around bricks, like 10-pound bricks, rifles, etc. They just keep throwing more stuff in, and they'd be like, we're not going to stop until 3 people quit today. And everyone would kind of be like eyeballing each other like, I'm not quitting. Are you quitting? Like, this is going to last a long time maybe. And then eventually someone would just sink under the water, and the instructor would take them to the bottom of the pool, and they'd be like, I'm done.
Fuck
like,
this.
Fuck this.
Fuck this. I don't want to drown anymore.
No,
And you did that for
shallow
3
water
months.
blackout, like, yeah.
Damn, man. And that was just to get to BRC. So then
Yeah.
then you got to. So do you want to talk anything about RIP or MART, whatever you want to call it now? Do you want to talk anything about that for people that may have questions about it? Or is there anything of note that you want to put out there?
Like a thing of note, like I've been hit up by a couple young dudes that were saying they wanted to join recon and like what they should work on and stuff like that. And the only thing I could honestly say, because you really cannot prepare yourself for it mentally. Like, you can be in the best physical shape. We had national champion swimmers and dudes in crazy shape, but it's really a mental fight the entire time. Like, even if you're a bodybuilder, like some crazy athlete, like they're gonna find a way to get to you, like some spot you're not comfortable in, they're gonna capitalize on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, cardio, like, learn to swim as best you can. I thought I knew how to swim when I got there, and I learned real fast. I can't swim as good as I thought. And, like,
I'm sure a lot of people learned that lesson.
Yeah, because those guys are, I mean, your instructors are combatant divers, and they've been in the recon community for 8+ years sometimes at that point. So it's like, it's not like, oh, I'm swimming at the community pool. It's not,
Yeah.
I can swim while in the ocean. I can swim. And I was a diver already at that point. I was a civilian diver, so I thought I could swim good.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't the story.
Do you think that helped you at all, having that civilian diver qualification? Are you dive qualified in the Marine Corps?
No, so I never went to combatant dive school.
Okay.
When I checked in the first recon, it was even like strange. It was not strange, but it was seldom that dudes would even go to jump school, because everyone was on the Afghan rotation. If you were in one of the Afghan companies, like Bravo or Charlie Company at first recon, there were a lot of dudes that just rock lead sleds. There wasn't like a strong schools phase back then. It was all workup, doing MOUT stuff, CQB stuff, and like unknown distance shooting and
Yeah.
movement to contact, vehicles, convoys, all that kind of stuff. So they weren't huge on like, oh, you need to go to free fall school, because everyone was too busy at that point with the deployments.
The practical stuff. That
Only
you're
the MU company guys were the ones I would get most of the things back then.
Okay, so you finish RIP or MART, and then you go to BRC.
Yep.
What part of the BRC was the hardest part for you?
Well, I would say the most difficult part for me was second. Well, back when I went, second phase was amphib phase. I think amphib is not third phase, but that was most difficult for me, not because it was amphib, but because I had a stress fracture in my foot, and I didn't know it was a stress fracture at the time. I just told the corpsman every day my foot hurt, and he was like, "Oh, just stretch it out. Your muscles are sore like everyone else's." So I ended up running on it for like another week, and my foot shattered into like 6 pieces.
Oh, well, that's good.
But I kept running on it because the corpsman was like, "It's just a strained tendon. You're fine."
Yeah.
So I finished the longest day at the end of amphib, which is a nightmare of stuff, kind of like our version of like Hell Week stuff for like buds. And after that, I went to the hospital, got an x-rayed, and they were like, "You need to sit down because your foot's in like 7 pieces." And I was like, well, that's why my foot's hurt so
that
bad
makes sense. I thought my boots were just too tight.
But like physically wise, patrol phase is the shittiest. That's when you get no sleep, you're rucking a lot of weight, your instructors are throwing CS gas at you all the time, you're doing movement of contacts with 100-something pound rucks.
Yeah.
Up mountains in Pendleton. So
yeah, and the hills in Pendleton they're not a joke.
Small.
Yeah, like they can be very tiring after going up and down enough.
I never discount the boys on the second recon boys on the East Coast, because I mean, patrolling out in the Gizra and the swamps is like it's a whole other monster, but patrolling in the mountains is its own monster too. So everyone kind of gets their misery,
Yeah. You get comfortable with a certain type of misery, and then you travel to the other coast and get fucked up by that one.
You're like, oh, this is a new kind of shit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm covered in bugs and mosquitoes. Like, oh, cool. Yeah.
I'm in waist deep swamp water. Like, ugh.
So after you finished BRC, or like when you were coming to the end of BRC, what did it feel like when you knew you're like, fuck, man, I think I'm gonna make it. Like I'm only a couple days away, or whatever point you were like, fuck, this is it for me. I'm gonna make it. Like, what was that feeling like?
I don't think it really sunk in until I literally finished the death hike and was walking off the peak, because you always, like, it's kind of weird. You like idolize your instructors. They're like, I could never be him, because they're just fucking badass dudes.
Yeah. And
after the death hike, you walk up this peak behind the RTC compound. You've been gassed by like 80 CS grenades, and you're carrying a 200-pound dummy and your 100-pound ruck and like 3 other dudes' rifles that fallen out. And there's a point where you walk back down the mountain after you finish the hike, and all the instructors kind of line up, and you walk in between them, and they all clap and like shake your hand. And that's the moment where you're like, holy shit, like this is the end. Because the entire time you're either in MART or BRC, you're watching these dudes do this, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like look at those dudes, like they finished. And you're like, you can't really like imagine, like you can't put yourself into that. And then you finish it, and you're like, damn. But then you always have the constant reminder of the instructors telling you, like, yo, you're going to finish recon school, and guess what? Like, it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. Like, you go to a unit, because the expression in our community is, like, BRC doesn't make Recon Marines like the battalions make you a Recon Marine.
Yeah.
You can get the recon school thing, get the MOS, but you won't become a Recon Marine until you're in a team. You get brought up by some guys, and you learn, like, the team life, team training, and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. I mean, that's the way a lot of stuff is like that. They're testing you to get you to see if, like, if you're good enough to even go do the actual training now. So now you're going off to your unit and go do your actual training. And
if you're groomable in a community.
We had an expression, over for the JTACs some of the JTACs I knew, it was kind of like we would say, like, you're jumping on the train. It's like you grab onto the train, you jump on. And while you're on it, man, you're just 100 miles an hour, go, 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 go. And then as soon as you're done, dude, you jump off that train, it's gone. It leaves you behind. You know, everybody you know is just, hey, oh, cool, man. Yeah, I'm off on this training op. Or, hey, I'm doing this deployment. And you're just like, oh, okay, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you figure out you're a former action guy.
Or when you're a company gunny making a duty roster.
Yeah, right. So when you got to 1st Recon Battalion, that was your first duty station, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that where you wanted to go, or did you guys have a pick?
This is the whole other tangent. So I was the first graduating class that went straight to airborne school. I mean, now they've got the entire pipeline set up, but back then they were starting to, with my class, to send like a handful of dudes to jump school before they went to the duty station. So I ended up going to Fort Benning. I was supposed to go to Okinawa to 3rd Recon with all my buddies, and upon graduating jump school, and I was like in charge of like our little group of dudes. So it was whatever. So when we graduate jump school, we all go back to the liaison office, and we're printing out our orders and flights and everything to Japan because we didn't get any leave approved. So we're going to go straight from Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning to
No
Okinawa.
way, really? That's so fucked up.
Up comes my turn to get my stuff printed off, and they're like, hey, you don't have any orders in the system. And I'm like Lance Corporal Barlow, so I'm like, I've got paper orders, like, this is where I'm supposed to go. And they're like, nah, it ain't in the system.
You're like,
and I was
cool,
like,
bro,
what does that mean? So I ended up getting stuck in Fort Benning for like 5 months.
No way.
Way long after the fact. I mean, I went to a bunch of schools. I went to Reconnaissance Surveillance Leaders course, which was like way above of my experience level, what I should have been able to pass. And then small unarmed like SEWAS, bunch of CLS courses, air assault, stuff like that, because they just drugged out me into these schools.
Yeah.
But way after the fact, I was talking to my company commander when we were in 29 Palms, a force company, and he was saying he knew the Major Sieverts, the guy that worked there. He was like, dude, he was literally holding you there so he can make you an airborne black hat because they were low on quota. So the entire time I thought he was trying to hit up the monitor. The monitor was busy with stuff, and I was just waiting for orders. So 7 months later, I ended up getting fed up because I wanted to go to a unit.
Yeah.
I was a boot. I wanted to deploy. Everyone's going to Afghanistan. And
there's work to be done.
I called my instructor platoon sergeant from Recon School. At the time, it was Gunny Barry, and I was like, yo, I'm still in Fort Benning. And he's like, Barlow? Like, what the fuck? Like, you're still in Benning? Why? And I was like, I don't know. I'm stuck here. I didn't have orders. And he was like, where do you need orders to? And then I was like, I need orders at 1st Recon. He gave me orders at 1st Recon.
Oh, yeah, man.
And, like, so I flew to California. Didn't know how to check in. Like, didn't know any of that stuff. So I just kind of started walking into the CP buildings. And back then, 1st Recon was at Camp Margarita, right by Wilcox Range. So I walked into the first CP, which is Alpha Company. And I went into the first office. I was like, I'm at this time Corporal, or I was still Lance Corporal. I was like, Lance Corporal Bartlett checking in. And they're like, and there were some guys in there. The platoon sergeant wasn't there. No one was there. It was just some of the other guys from Alpha Company. And they're like, yeah, well, this is the Mew Company, blah, 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 blah. So I literally walk out of the building and go to the next building. And I walked into the back door. So the next building was Bravo and Charlie Company. So the next office I walked into was Charlie Company. And they're like, yo, we're about to start the Afghan workup, blah, blah. So I just sat on the couch and waited until I think it was Gunny Irving at the time walked in, and I was like, I'm Lance Corporal Barlow checking in. And he was like, all right. And then I ended up in Charlie Company 1st Recon.
Nice.
To Afghanistan with them like 7 months later.
Okay. So what was...
I kind of drugged out myself into it.
What was the workup like for you guys I mean, I think a lot of people know what like a normal infantry battalion going to 29 Palms, EMV kind of workup for deployment is. What's the workup look like for a recon unit going to Afghanistan?
So back then, it was kind of weird. Like, I don't think the workups were done the way they should have been back then. We did lots of like normal Vietnam green side patrols, but we wore plates and Kevlar, which like I get it, like be hard, but we did like 2 or 3 actual like clandestine RNS missions in Afghanistan. But we spent a lot of the work up doing it. It wasn't till probably the second half of not the second, but like the latter like 25% of the workup, where we started doing heavy convoy, reaction contact and trucks, and like heavy mount, unknown distance shooting. Because you probably know, like in Afghanistan, most of it's unknown distance, like longer range. And for us, at least, there wasn't a lot of convoy stuff. We would take a compound, we'd live there, and we'd do patrols out of it. And there was seldom we would get into a truck. So I really think it should have just been focused on mount, unknown distance shooting, and like learning to move and communicate with your team.
Yeah. Did you guys, the vehicles that so first off, the vehicles that you guys had, were you using MAT-Vs and MRAPs, or did you guys have like the GMVs that some units use?
Back then, that was 2011, so it was pretty much all MAT-Vs, and like maybe we'd have a 6x, but pretty much MAT-Vs, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that was mainly just to drive to like the next largest PB and get resupplies. We didn't do many vehicle patrols or anything like that. It was all on foot.
So 2011. Well, okay. Well, before I get into the deployment more, I got a bunch of questions about your deployment I want to ask, but I've had Langland on, I've had Ketting on, and I've had Harper on, and I haven't asked all three of them. What can you break down what a reconnaissance team is, and like what are the different elements within that team?
Yeah. So generally, when I first got to the units, it was you have a 6-man team, you had a team leader, ATO, RTO, ARTO, 2 slackmen. We kind of moved away from that. We kind of run sections now, where you have an 8-man team that's broken down into 2 sections. So you have an alpha element and a bravo element. Your team leader will usually be the head of alpha element, and your ATL will be the head of bravo element. RTO will be alpha, ARTO will be bravo, so on and so forth. And then you have your 2 scouts. And that was mainly brought upon because I think it was brought upon because in Afghanistan you had to have X amount of dudes to go out on patrol.
Yeah.
And you could kind of manage your elements a little bit better. It was better to have 4 and 4 than 3 and 3, and it was kind of broken down a little wonky. But we wanted to have a little bit more firepower too, and we didn't trust the A&A dudes for the most part. So we kind of ran sections. Plus, you want the personnel because if you submit something for your TO, like it's going to be better if you have 2 or 3 sections worth of dudes in case someone like gets injured or you need someone with a certain amount of quals, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of worked better for the way we work to have sections instead of just more teams.
Are your comm guys, are your radio operator and your assistant radio operator, are those both 0621s or are those?
So no.
Okay.
So I was the RTO for probably the first 5 years of my career. Kind of victim of my own success because I was good at using the radio and I was good at making field expedient antennas and good at getting comms. So, but it's the worst. It's probably the worst job in the team.
Why? Because you got to carry all that shit?
Yeah, you have the worst weight, and then after the insert, you're the most tired, most likely, at least. And then as soon as you sit down, you have to worry about setting up some bullshit.
Yeah.
And then, like, everyone's just waiting on you. It's like, I have to send up a sit rep. I have to send up back in a Cocoa and a Pano and all these things. And you're just like, they're like, just looking at you like, get fucking calm.
Hey,
dude.
radio
like,
operator, make it work.
Yeah, exactly. So the 0621s are usually the comm chiefs for the platoons or for the companies. So back when I went to Afghanistan, we had Chris Creech, who was an awesome dude. Awesome comm chief. He came on patrols with us all the time. But again, like when we were just doing Greenside RNS, the comm chiefs, that wasn't really the thing that came on. They would set you up, they would get your freaks and issue out your radios for your teams. But the RTO is like the guy in the team in charge of everyone's 152s or M-biters and like setting up his 150 and 117 and everything like that.
Yeah. So when you guys got to Afghanistan, you were probably the junior man on the team, correct?
I was. There was 3 senior guys on my team, and then 3 junior guys, and then something like that.
What kind of roles did you play as like the junior most dude or one of the junior guys on your team? Like, because you're in the fleet for what, 6 months when you deployed, or 7 months when you deployed? So
No, by the time I deployed, I'd been in the fleet for over a year at that point, because boot camp, SOI, 3 months of MART, 2 months of BRC, shattered my foot, recycled, finished along a month, stuck in Benning for 5 months.
That's right, yeah.
In the workup. So
I forgot about the Benning part.
But I was like, I guess in time and service wise, or even schools wise, maybe I was the senior junior guy, the fucking golden boot or whatever you want to call it. And I was the RTO, so I was kind of RTO's right hand man. So that was kind of like my role once we got there. Plus, we had a big issue with our comm people, so a couple of us had to step up and like kind of be platoon comm chiefs at the same time, even though we were junior guys. So we had to step into some shoes.
Yeah.
But we had lots of help from, like I said, I had help from Creech, big time.
That name sounds familiar for some reason. I'm not sure what.
He's a giant guy with my complexion.
I don't know if I've met him or not. Maybe I have. Maybe I run into him at some point.
Yeah.
So what part of Afghanistan were you guys in then on that first deployment?
So the first 2 months we were in Sangin. We were at PB Transformer. My platoon was at Transformer along with the sister platoon. Then the other platoon was at PB Fahim. We were there for 2 months. And then after the first 2 months of deployment, after we left Sangin, we switched to heliborne interdiction. So kind of flew into some really weird places and like took compounds and kind of did our business out of those.
Yeah. No, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, I know Transformer, right? I've been up there a few times when I was there in 13. You said you were there in 11? This was during 2011?
Yeah.
What was the work like outside of Transformer in 2011?
That was in dead of winter when we were there, so it was kind of weird because like a lot of our seniors taught us about like everything about Sangin being the crazy like killing fields, and like all of us were pumped up to go to Sangin and like get it on. But we were there in the dead of winter, so Sangin wasn't that crazy. We had like a few things here and there near the end of Sangin, but nothing near what our seniors always told us about. But once it started getting warmed up and we started going to the other villages and areas that like people hadn't been to before, then we were like, okay, this is where it's at.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's weird how the Taliban or whoever you want to point at over there run their fighting seasons, and it's like an official announcement, like, all right, tomorrow the fighting season begins, and then all of a sudden shit just pops off. That's what happened when I was there in 13. We were there, and it was like, this isn't too bad. We were there for like a month, and I'm like,
everyone gets complacent, and then shit pops
It's like
off.
tracer fire flying over the camp daily, but it's like, that's not too crazy, And then all of a sudden, like, the fighting season begins, and that's I've talked about it before, but I think the day after that is when we went on a mounted patrol to go do like biometrics or something. We were setting up a fucking spot, and they tried to ambush us. They blew up and flipped over a dump truck in the middle of 611 up by Transformer. Actually, I think it was right near Transformer. Yeah. Do you know where PB Cuba was? It was south of Cuba. I know that. All right, but yeah, man, the fighting season out there, it's pretty wild. Yeah. So, who were you with when you were in Sangin? Like, who were you guys supporting? Because Recon doesn't normally get their own battle space. I know a team from
Honestly,
second went in.
I couldn't even tell you who we were supporting. I don't even remember. I know we were part of RC Southwest, but I didn't know. I don't think we're really even supporting a grunt battalion. I think we just kind of. I don't remember. I was a boot, so who knows, man? Like,
I mean, you guys might have been in your own battle space at the time, because I know the guys came in from second, right, to make.
The next grunts were up by maybe like White House or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
We know we had Georgians across the river. We were there, and then I know there were some HIMARS somewhere near us, but
they had already built
we were in
Alcatraz,
DS,
right?
Yeah, that was probably a year after they built Alcatraz, because the 2010 guys at First Recon built Alcatraz.
Okay. Is it? No, I thought it was second Recon guys went out there and did that. I don't know.
I don't
Either
remember.
one of them. Either way.
Yeah.
That's a shitty spot too.
Yeah.
Alcatraz, man. So
The moon dust is real at Alcatraz.
for real, how did your like team like layout or how you guys ran missions change from, because you said you would go on patrols and take over compounds, right, and then run patrols out of there, which is pretty standard. That's not too uncommon. Well, first off, before we get past that, do you want to talk about what that means? Like, how did you take over a compound per se and use it?
Yeah, so generally we would insert like 1 or 2 in the morning. Each team would have whatever target building they had. I don't know if I should get too much into the SOPs.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't want you to do that.
I mean, we do our tactical call-outs, and they didn't come out, they didn't come out. We went in. If they did come out, we went in, told them to get out. If they didn't want to go out, then it was solved either way. And then
you're like, hey, you're gonna have to get out. Sorry.
We pretty much live in their house for, well, I mean, it wasn't like living in their house. We would pretty much live in their courtyard for 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks at a time, and then be like 4 in the morning, filling up like 2,000 sandbags, making posts on each corner of the building, banging murder holes out in the walls. And
that's that shit life,
then
but it's
doing
worth it.
Patrols out of it every day. Yeah.
I would much rather be doing that though than be sitting on like Leatherneck and wondering why I'm in Afghanistan.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly.
Like it's such a different living experience. Like it's the worst living conditions you could probably imagine, but it's like that's the place you want to be.
You have so many of those little good moments where like you're off of patrol, you're waiting, you don't have to go on post yet. Someone like shot a sheep or something, or a goat, or found a chicken, and you're making food from like what you can scavenge, and it's just like those little moments where you're like, it's like kind of homey now.
Yeah,
you got walls around you
with all my homies. You know, I got all my boys with me. Like we're just having a good time.
Everyone's miserable and pissed off, but content.
What were the foot patrols like that you were doing out there?
I mean, they varied between probably 5 to 8 kilometers, maybe, depending on what area needed to be patrolled. Usually, well, like in Sangin, there were present patrols. After that, it was still kind of present patrols, but we'd have like a couple key buildings we would go to, or key individuals we would talk to. At night, it would be more of like, go check out this compound, see what's going on around here, and try and be a little bit more quiet and everything during the daytime. And after, when we're in Olive-Warren interdiction, some people would talk to us. It wasn't like coin, we're handing out like halals and like telling somebody to patch up a hole in his wall. It was kind of like most people were not out to see us, and it was a little more eerie. But they were pretty long, but not too bad. We're not wearing rucks and stuff, so we're pretty okay with that. Most of the firefights happened when we were like in our compound, and it was prayer time ends, and then they're like, oh, the Americans are in this house, we're gonna come at them in waves.
They got everybody all pumped up. Then they're like, let's go get them.
Yeah.
Did you ever see one of the weirdest things, man, in singing, even out there by the Transformer 2, would be you'd see some kites go up or something like that, or it's like an impending firefight, and then you'd see all the local women and kids like start leaving the compounds and like bringing their goats and shit, and you're like, oh fuck, like let's get air on station because something's about to happen.
So funny story. So obviously during the whole workup, the seniors always told us like, hey, if the people start leaving, it's about to go down. And I was on post probably like it's probably like my second week in the thing, and I was on post in the daytime. And no one gave me the message, but the Sangin Bazaar was open for business. And allegedly, and no one told me, but when the Sangin Bazaar opens, everyone fucking goes. Like the entire...
It's busy.
District of Sangin goes down there. And so I was on post just watching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars and trucks and jingle trucks, the big-ass things leaving. And I was like, oh my God,
what's about to happen?
Nothing happened. I was like, what the shit?
Yeah, that's funny. So when you were doing your heliborne assaults, were they mostly raids, or were you coming in, taking over a compound, staying there for a couple days, and then leaving?
It would differ. Like sometimes a compound would be like a compound of interest, and that would be like the raid. Otherwise, it would be like you're taking compound in support of one of the platoons one of the teams taking this house.
Yeah.
Because we would always do. It was mostly company inserts while I was there. So we'd have 3 platoons inserting, and we'd usually be in like a triangulated position. So they'd insert like on the south of the town, we'd insert on the north of the town, another platoon would be on the east or whatever you say.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah.
What was it like, man? How old were you at this time? 19, 20?
Yeah, 19. I'm pretty sure I turned 20 in Afghanistan, but I was 19, 20.
So 19 or 20, like we've all seen the videos of like people clearing houses or people in combat and stuff like that. But now you're doing it. You're doing it with one of the most elite units in the military. What was that like for you as like a 19 or 20-year-old to like, you had to have moments where you're sitting on the helicopter riding into a raid like, man, this is fucking crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm like here doing this.
I don't know. It was, I think, anticipating it for so long. Like, for example, like me just anticipating doing something like that my entire life. It was more surreal than anything. I didn't really have like the moment of clarity or whatever you want to call it, where I was like, oh, I'm sitting there. I was usually like, I'm tired, or I'm gonna listen to music, and I was like, I wonder what it's gonna be like when we land. I never really I usually had those moments where I'm like, how did I end up here? Like, what's going on now? Like,
yeah,
I wonder what I'm gonna feel like in 2 months from now. I wonder what I'm gonna be doing 2 months from now. But I was kind of like, I don't know, I kind of went internal for a lot of that stuff.
Really?
I was just kind of like, I'm here.
Just kind of indifferent to the whole thing?
It was really surreal, yeah. I was really indifferent to it, and it was really surreal, and I just kind of like did what I needed to do. Everyone's amped up. They just want to kill people, so no one really kind of...
Just get out and do work.
Yeah.
The biggest fear, I think, for like helo assaults are taking ground fire when you're landing or something like that, or being attacked on landing. Yeah. Was that something that you ever experienced while you were out there? Yeah,
definitely. Actually... Our sergeant major on one of the inserts, I think he inserted with Bravo Company. They had a really hot landing, and he got drugged like 150 meters to a compound by 2 lance corporals. There was a town we were supposed to insert in. Pretty much an entire company almost got shot out of the sky. It's got Swiss cheese.
Oh, no way.
Allegedly, the Taliban had thermals and stuff on the ground. And I think they compromised the company. I think it was said by the ISR that was above them at first before the birds rolled in. But they flew in on Ospreys and 53s, I believe, and took like 15 or 20 RPGs and a bunch of like machine gun. They did like pillboxes in this town. It was like going to be the next Fallujah kind of talk,
Yeah.
And at the time, our battalion commander was like, yeah, you're not. They didn't get any supporting fire or anything, so they were just flying out alone and unafraid. But all those pilots were like bailing. I think 1 or 2 birds maybe got wheels on the deck, and RPGs hit like in the front and behind them. They're like, nope, like we're bouncing.
Oh, so nobody even got off, huh?
No, they couldn't.
That's crazy. Damn. Huh. Yeah, that's something. I've actually had a guy that was with Raider Battalion tell me the same thing, that they would go to do a raid, and someone in the intelligence section would be like, throw up an ISR like the day before to scan it, and it would like give away. Yeah. It's like, dude, they can see, some of the, for those that don't know, some UAVs you can actually see. Some of them fly super fucking high, you can't see, but some of them.
Yeah, it wasn't, I doubt it was a Pred or something like that, but
yeah,
who knows what it was.
Yeah, that sucks, man. That's crazy. Yeah, luckily I've never done it. I've only done one helo assault when I was with 3-6 onto what we thought was an IED making facility. And it's definitely cool. Like it's a different feeling, when you're flying in, you're looking off the ramp, like, oh shit, like here we go, we're landing, because it's the unknown.
That's when you're like, get me off this bird.
Oh yeah,
first of all,
yeah.
But also, what's waiting for me when I get off this bird?
And for me, I was an attachment. I was the at the time I was the fires chief. I was the battalion fires chief, so I was supposed to be working in the COC, doing my thing there. But they didn't have a scout that could go out, a forward observer, or anybody that could go out. So I was like, yeah, I'll go, I can go. And they put me out there. And I remember we're getting ready to get on the helo, and I was bullshitting with the EOD guy. And we get on, head out, land, they run up, take the compound, whatever. And we're just kind of looking around the area, searching around to see if you find anything suspicious. And I'm just sitting there kind of bullshitting with the EOD guy still. And I look over, and he's just poking everything with his fucking knife. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And I'm like, dude, I'm getting the hell away from you, bro. You're over here, like, literally digging for IEDs with your knife, like, waiting to see if something goes off. Like, get the fuck away from me. But
Yeah.
doing those.
And that was but with like IED aspect, like, because everything around that time frame was low carbon. Like, we had the old CMDs that had like the low carbon inserts.
Oh yeah.
They supposedly could sense them, but like the soil there is so rich with minerals that like everything you'd be scanning was carbon. So there was just points where we didn't even bring our CMDs. We were just using sickles or
the old sickle,
doing other things, which I won't talk about. But like, like,
man,
check this out.
What a crazy time. Do you have any like stories or whatever, anything of note you want to touch on from your first deployment that we may have glossed over?
I mean, not really. Just I think the craziest aspect was the tunnels. That was the most surreal moment I had.
Tunnels
going into the tunnel, like the Carez systems.
Oh, yeah, I never went into one.
That was always the scary part. Like, we would insert in the middle of the night, and obviously back then we had PVS 14, so you still couldn't see jack shit, especially with rotor watch and everything. But you would land on these fields, and the Carez holes were just these seemingly bottomless pits. Mm-hmm. That just, you'd throw a rock into them and you would never hear it hit the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so you would always imagine, like, what if someone just falls into one of these when we insert in the middle of the night, like just sprinting out into a 360 and just falls into one of these holes?
Yeah, because there's no markers or anything.
You would never know what happened to them. Mm-hmm. Like, because you can't even see the bottom of these things. And a couple of times, like, we got ambushed a couple of times by or attacks from all these Carez holes. So I'm a smaller guy, so they'd send a couple of the smaller guys from the team, like me or my buddy Dan, like we'd drop our kit at whole security. He would go into these tunnels and stuff like that.
Dude,
so I always wanted to like get like a little tunnel rat thing.
Yeah, that's legit, man. I remember being a kid and
it's creepy.
Oh, I wouldn't. I mean, there's no way I could do it. I'm too big of a fucking dude. I'm over 6 feet tall and stuff. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I remember being a kid and at my dad's Army Reserve unit, he was with the 377th Combat Support Hospital in Chattanooga. And one of the guys that worked there was a Vietnam vet. And he was a tunnel rat, dude, that like he was down in a tunnel and an explosion. I don't know if a bomb got dropped or a booby trap went off, but he got buried alive in the tunnel, him and his buddy. And the other dude died. And I think he was down there for like over a day, buried alive before they dug him out. And I'm like, dude, like, fuck.
I'm surprised they dug him out.
I don't know, man. I just remember like being a kid, my dad telling me that story, and I'm like, that is insane. Like, that does not sound cool at all. But you hear about these tunnel rats going into those tunnels. It's like, I mean, I don't know, man. There's something sketchy about that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like coming back from your first deployment though? So like, oh man, I made it, you know, like I did it, you know, I saw and made it back.
That was actually probably the part of my life that like put me into my dark days, because it wasn't really the aspect of the deployment, but like coming back to my home back then wasn't a good thing to come back to. So
that sucks.
I didn't do very well with like coming home. I didn't feel like I was home. I wanted to be back in Afghanistan. So
yeah,
I spent like probably like a couple years in like that weird twilight zone where you're kind of like,
you just feel out of place.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. That's you know, that's one of those things, like we go to Afghanistan or we go to Iraq, you know, deployment or whatever, and the world just keeps on turning while you're over there. Everything seems simple while you're there, you know. I don't have to worry about bills. You don't have to worry about traffic.
Easy.
You don't.
Easy.
Yeah, you know, you're doing.
Do what you need to do.
Do your job and everything like that. And then you come back and, you know, all the bullshit kind of hits you at once. And for some guys, it's worse. You know, guys that's, you know, their old ladies left them while they were gone, or, you know, one thing or another, you know, grandparents may have passed away while they were gone. Like, you know, life doesn't stop. And then you come back and you have to confront, not only is your life no longer just the basics, like I'm just doing the basics and enjoying and doing work and that's it, but now you have all these external like negative influences that are coming in. And, you know, I had a kid too. So, you know, I'm coming back and now I'm dealing with a kid, which is, I say dealing with it, like that sounds horrible, but it's just a different stressor that you've kind of grown away from. You're not used to it.
Like, especially if you're in like a relationship, it takes like, that's when you really put into your perception like what kind of a woman like should be with you if you're in a job like this.
Yeah.
Like, she shouldn't just be like, oh, well, you're home now, like, whatever, you did some shit. And it's like, no, like, you like, as much as some guys might not want to admit, like, you need the emotional support. Like,
For sure.
that's like a huge, like, you can't just come home and like start getting nagged for doing things, or like not have some like outlet somehow. Like, there's no, you need like help, like, coming back.
Yeah, no,
like,
100%.
It's vastly looked over by a lot of dudes I've seen that were married and stuff like that, and it ultimately either ruined their marriage or
Made it a lot harder than it needed to be.
Made a very toxic relationship after that point, which was my case.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're and you know, like you said, you were out, hey, we're going to take this compound and we're going to live out it for however long we're going to live out of it. You don't have internet service there. You know, it's not like Leatherneck, like we talked about before, where you can go to Green Bean Coffee, grab some Wi-Fi real quick and Skype mom and dad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're living in the dirt, you know, like, you know, I'm hoping for a resupply so we have enough water for today.
You're like
and
waking up with their sleeping bag, like with ice on it the next morning. It's like,
yeah, it's a different world, man. And coming back from that is like, and the hard part too is that the people that you come back to can never understand that. And, you know, like you said, coming back and someone just being like, all right, well, you're back, you know, like you'd been on vacation for 7 months or something like that. Like, all right, just roll right back into it. I remember my neighbor, when I was like a Lance Corporal or whatever, when I lived over in Tarwood Terrace on Camp Lejeune, my neighbor was an artillery guy, and he had come back. He was coming back from a deployment as provisional infantry to Iraq. It was when they were sending the arty guys as provisional infantry. And his wife had given birth while he was gone. And he comes back, and I remember she just like hands him the baby and was like, all right, it's your turn now. And just like stopped doing shit. Like expected him to come back and like clean and do all this stuff. Like he was making up for all that time he missed. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly,
he was working.
So my son was born probably a month after I got back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's good that you made it back for it though.
Yeah.
That was your first kid? Mm-hmm. That's such a life-changing experience, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to explain to people that haven't been there for the birth of their kid, but it's an intense moment, you know? Like, yeah, it's a wild ride.
Dramatic, to say the least.
Yeah. So now you're back, man. You've done a deployment. You're probably a corporal at least at this point.
Yeah, picked up corporal and sang.
So now you're like, you know, you come back. You're a more senior guy now within the battalion. What was the plans for you when you got back? Like, what did the battalion do? You had schools lined up, or were you rolling right into another deployment?
Go to some more schools, start the workup for the next Afghan pump, which, ultimately got canceled pretty much for the 13 TAC 1 or 12 TAC 4, whatever it was supposed to be. And we did our entire workup. We were told probably like a couple of weeks prior to bouncing, and it was like, it ain't happening. Like, and then it was like,
that sucks.
The end of the world at that unit. Like, dudes were going on benders. Like, it was complete. Like, if you walked anywhere near the barracks at that time, you're gonna get murdered.
Especially after doing a whole workup, man. That's a lot of work, man. That's putting in time.
Torn on palms for like 2 months and coming back, and then they're like, nope.
What kind of schools did they send you
to? Before I went to Afghan, I obviously had airborne and all those things that when I got stuck at Benning. I went to JFO prior to combat hunter instructor, and then I got back. I went to Hearst. I went to free fall. Eventually, I went to JTAC school. Obviously, free fall JM, foreign weapons instructor.
Just hitting them all.
Hearst master. I don't know if I already said that, but yeah, it was, whole gambit.
What was your favorite school out of all the ones you've been to?
My favorite, easily Fwick. That was a badass school.
Oh, really?
It was easy as shit, and you just got to blast guns. And I'm a gun nut, so I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, nah.
You could do a round robin with AKs on full auto and RPKs and RPDs and
that's cool.
Dishkas and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I never got to shoot the Dishka. We had some Afghans. They would let us if we wanted. I had no reason to shoot it while I was in singing, though, at that time. Out of actually PP Transformer. They would
Yeah.
they would shoot. They had one on a rooftop. They would have dudes on the other end of it with a radio, and there's a guy on a rooftop just launching it, like arcing it out, and a guy like wherever, somewhere in the green zone, calling in like impacts from this 50 cal or from this Dishka.
I don't know what it is, but like you shoot an M2 and you're kind of like, this is cool. This is a 50 cal. You shoot I don't know what it is about the 12.7, but that thing is a monster. Like it seems so much more violent than an M2.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's definitely louder. It's
yeah, it is.
It's like I don't know. It's like a weird little cannon, but I did get to shoot a bunch of foreign weapons when I was going through the advisor training. That was really cool, like shooting the Dragunov and stuff like that, and
which are actually scary accurate.
Yeah, no, it was super cool. I wish I would have gotten to go through like the foreign weapons instructor course like that though, and got more hands on with some of this stuff because, like, I mean, I like shooting. You know, I'm gonna shoot if people are gonna give me free ammo and guns, like, I'm gonna go shoot. It always blew my mind when I'd be at a range and like someone would be complaining about how much ammo we had. Like, oh, we got to shoot more. It's like, dude, are you serious right now? It's like, you know how much people are paying for this fucking ammo back in the real world?
Oh man, like legit got a Force Recon platoon before a shooting package and see how much ammo they have in the tent, and then you'll like learn to. Well, I think one shooting package, a platoon will go through an entire grunt battalion's like ammo allotment for the year.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's obscene.
So
it's obscene.
So when you came back from that first deployment, you hit some schools. You did a workup for a second deployment that didn't happen. What was like? What'd they say then? Like, what was the game plan?
The game plan was, I don't even really remember. At that time, that was when we were planning on moving from Margarita to Flores. I made the hop over to Force Company, and then at that time, Force Company's focus was South America, so I started going to South America and going on different trips like that.
Do you want to explain, because there's a lot of confusion out there between Recon, Force Recon. You want to explain what that is and why, like, because I know it's shifted over the years as well, like what the meaning of both have. So can you kind of...
So originally the biggest difference was, like, Force Recon was where the senior guys went. Like, you've got a couple of combat deployments under your belt. Your line we call them line companies. Your battalion companies like Alpha Bravo Charlie, they work for the battalion that you're supporting. Basically, the Force Company falls under the MEF commander, so they're kind of like the higher echelon of support, so to speak. Later on, when the Force Companies moved away from being under the MEF, they were, at least when I was in First Force, was more so doing like the South America gigs. Like we started breaking into plainclothes deployments with some of the dudes out of MacDill, stuff like that. And the line companies would focus on Muse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do
you want to?
Yeah, it was a good experience.
Do you want to? Or I don't know what you can or cannot talk about South America, but you want to kind of explain, like, because there's probably a lot of people that are surprised that we even have anybody in South America, or may not know.
There's actually quite a lot of Marines in South America, but
yeah.
I mean, we would usually work down there with our equivalents, so to speak, like the Chilean Comfues and the Brazilian SF. And
was it anti-terrorism or like anti-drug kind of missions?
That was more along the lines of counter-narco, but it was more in the sense of like helping them out with their SOPs for it and stuff like that. Kind of more of a SME deployment. I went back down there multiple times with the SP MAGTAF as well. Trained like their SF dudes from all the like Colombians, Chileans, Brazilians, with CQT and tracking and long range stuff.
Did their guys,
which was cool.
Did their guys pick it up pretty well?
Yeah, so usually when we worked with their SF dudes, I mean, if they weren't as like super broke, I mean, the Chileans military doesn't have a lot of funding, so you didn't have a lot to work with. They had like a few weird places where they'd have a lot of money into, like, oh, our long range rifles are dope, but you'd see dudes walking around with M4s with like no rear sight on them, so you're kind of like, huh, like what's going on?
Yeah.
they had not like good free fall parachutes, and I'm like, why is this? They have 1911s from like literally World War II.
Oh, really?
Like so old the rear sight post is worn down to where there's no more notch anymore. Like it's kind of like weird when you work with those guys.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
You have like a good dude that's been in for like 18 years and he's a corporal.
It's funny, like in the Marine Corps specifically, because that's all I really know about. But in the Marine Corps, you know, we're so hard on each other, and we're like, we suck. This unit sucks. They're no good. They're garbage.
Yeah.
Like in our own eyes, we're like, oh, they're, you know, they would never make it in combat. But then when you actually compare them to other nations and you take an actual look at other countries like militaries, you're like, wait,
stark difference.
like we're way better. Like our equipment's so much better for the most part. You know, our training is so much better. Like it's just huge difference.
And that's the other weird thing, because like, and to kind of jump off what you said, like our training is like ridiculously better than a lot of the countries I've worked with. But the thing I've realized, the thing I noticed with a lot of the foreigners that we work with is they're always expecting everyone to be like these giant cock diesel like bodybuilders. But like they see Marines like even me, for example, like I'm not a huge dude. But then they're like, oh, well, you're not a big Marine. It's like, okay, well, look at all these quals I have and experience and blah, blah. And they're like, oh, shit, like what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
and they're like, yeah.
We do a good job of advertising ourselves. That's why, like, the silent drill platoon, I think all of them have to be between, like, 6 foot and 6'3". Like, there's, like, specific height requirements for, like,
height and weight requirements.
The color guard, the sergeant of the, or what is it? The color sergeant for the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Like he has to be at least 6 foot or 6'1". You know, it's just like to always be like imposing towards other people, when in reality, there's a bunch of dudes that are like 5'4", you know, in the Marine Corps that are just little, like whatever dudes. Oh man.
And some of the most badass instructors I had were like tiny dudes.
Yeah.
Like we had a couple instructors, one of which was a psychopath, and we would be running a PFT like to warm up before a land PT, and we'd be running the 3 mile, and he'd be in boots and utes with a ruck on with 50 pounds in it, and he'd be like passing everybody.
Oh, really?
And we were like, what? And he was shorter than me. I'm like 5'8". He was like 5'7" maybe. Little time. I'm like, what?
Just zipping past
kind
everybody.
Of animal is that? Yeah, just not giving a fuck.
That's funny.
Just hard ass, dude.
After you went to free fall school, so you said you were a free fall jump master. How'd you like that?
Yeah, that was dope. Static line jump master is the worst experience of my life. Free fall jump master made it all worth it.
Is the free fall jump master out in Arizona as well, or Nevada, wherever it is?
So I did one of the first MTTs that they ran. So they came to First Recon and moved to the course there. There was a couple Marines from other locations. An FBI HRT guy was in their class. And we pretty much did it at battalion, like in our paraloft.
An FBI HRT guy was there. The fuck are they?
Yeah, they free fall and dive.
Into what? I could see dive maybe because, you know, working the coastline, but what are you jumping into in the U.S.?
I have no clue.
Well, I guess they work
just
overseas
as surprised as you are, but they have jump teams and dive teams just like we do, and they jump our same rigs too. I was like, what?
Huh? That's pretty interesting.
Maybe I should go to HRT.
That's pretty interesting. So, how many jumps did you end up getting while you were in?
I don't even know. Like 130 something.
Yeah.
140, 150.
Yeah. Did you ever have any close calls while you're jumping?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've cut to reserve before, or?
I've had one cutaway. I've had, the reason I rotated a disc out of my spine from a accident in Arizona. I dislocated my knee in Arizona on a jump. There's some sketchy times.
Yeah.
It happens though. Once you're jumping with once you're doing full mission profile free fall jumps, and you have, my buddy jumped with like a PLDR on top of his RNS ruck. It was like 155 pounds plus oxygen plus your weapons and dual tube nods in the middle of the night. And it's like, you better nail your exit, dude. Like,
oh yeah. Damn, man. Yeah.
Get that drogue out and try and get stable. But when you start adding on all these things, we had a couple jumps where we were up at altitude for too long and everyone got hypoxic and dudes' eyes were rolling around their head. It's like, there's lots of variables that come into those jumps they can make it go bad really fast.
Yeah. How do you, like, there's a lot of people out there that think that, like, static line or any jumping, like, as an insertion method is too dangerous to, like, that we're never really ever going to do it. What do you say to that kind of critique of the insertion method?
I would say, I mean, we started moving to this thing called a Cat 3 jump qual, which is like everyone, your whole team's free fall qualified, you've done a jump package, and then you have these standards you need to hit. You have to do unmarked DZs, you have to do night jumps, you have to do with this equipment, that equipment, this many landings together, you have to be within 50 meters of each other when you land. Like, if we had, I 100% think there could be some of the teams that I've seen in the community that could do a no shit hey-ho insert. Doing a couple, like 2, 3, 4 DFTs, canopy control package, like a Metris or an IDIS package. There are dudes that can pull it off. The problem is a lot of commanders aren't going to sign off. They're only going to accept the risk.
Yeah.
Like in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
In the Marine Corps. I mean, even in any branch, they haven't had that many. I mean, you think of some of the, like even some of the special mission units, like they ain't doing that many jumps either. I mean,
yeah,
there's some that you can read about or maybe that have happened that we don't know about, but it's not we haven't had to. It's not something that's been necessary in the people we're fighting currently is the thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can see free fall being, something like doing the hey-ho stuff can be something that's like applicable, but I don't know about static line. I just can't imagine a time when we're going to kick hundreds of people or thousands of people, out the side of an airplane into an area anymore. Like, I feel like those days have gone by.
They had Rangers doing static line out in probably like 03 or some shit in Afghanistan to set up airfields for some of the guys. So,
they did do a jump on.
It's not a combat. Well, I mean, it is technically a combat jump. It's an unknown area,
but it was unopposed. I think
surveilled, but
yeah, that's the kind of thing. I felt like when they did that jump. I know what you're talking about. That was at the beginning of the Afghan war. I think it was the Was it the Jalalabad airfield, I think, is the one that they jumped in on, is the one they took.
Yeah, it might have been.
But it seemed like from, and this is a guy on the outside looking in kind of deal, but it seemed like they were doing that just to validate, like, hey, look, we still jump.
The jump, yeah.
Yeah, rather than, like, they actually needed to do it. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, I agree. A mass exit stack line jump, I couldn't see it happening unless, I mean, it was Normandy again or something like that.
Yeah.
But, like, in our current... well, not even a current, but like an OEF, like there would be no point.
Yeah.
In that. I mean, there's no anti-air. There's no. I mean,
you're not going to jump in to take over a compound.
We're not doing mass attrition warfare, like that, anyways. So.
Yeah, it's so you just medically retired, right?
Yeah, last May 30th.
So welcome to the other side, and
yes.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad time to get out, to be honest. Like...
It isn't and isn't. I mean, I wanted to get out and hit the ground running because, like, the thought of not doing anything just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
The companies I've been talking to, it's not like an immediate hiring process. It's kind of like...
It's months.
There's a process you have to go through. Which was like kind of alarming. That's why I'm working at a brewery now for the meantime, which is not a bad deal at all. But
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I kind of lucked out when I was getting ready to get out. The companies that I was talking to were kind of in a hiatus, and then upon my retirement, they kind of like opened back up. So now it's like, okay, maybe this isn't bad.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, getting out is one of those things. You knew you were getting out, so you had time to plan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everybody knows when they should know when they're getting out. Hopefully they plan, sooner than later. And I think that was the biggest thing for me for my transition was that I didn't have like a set plan, like this is exactly what I'm going to do. Like this is it, but I had kind of a general idea, like here's a couple paths I'm considering. And let's just kind of go with it. I was lucky enough to have 70 something days of terminal, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I couldn't even take terminal.
oh, really? Oh, that sucks.
I mean, so I got my like med board findings, and then you like sign and accept them. And once you send them back to Recon Marine Corps, you wait for them to give you your date. And usually your date is 90 days out from when you accept your findings.
Okay.
So I was anticipating getting out in like mid-July, late July, and I ended up getting my findings or getting my EAS, and it was May 30th, and it was May like 2nd, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't planning for that.
You're like, fuck, here
like,
we go.
So much for 45 to 90 days.
Yeah. The one time that the Marine Corps is efficient, right?
Exactly. Like, oh, that was really fast. And they gave me my EAS within like 5 days too. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough for guys getting out. And I think the thing that I just keep pushing, one is if you know you're getting out, take advantage of TA benefits. Like, do fucking schooling. Like, knock out as many classes as you can before you get out to maximize your GI Bill, because that just takes your GI Bill further. Like, I should be able to at least pay for at least half of, if not an entire master's program once I'm done with my bachelor's, just because 2 years before I got out, I started crushing classes, and I knocked out like 30-something credits, because I was on ship. I was on the MEU, fucking doing that, so might as well take classes. So that's like one thing that I always tell people, like, start taking like your basic, like, English classes, your 101s and stuff like that. And then two.
Yeah, and I kind of lucked out because I can capitalize on like voc rehab, and I'm 100% disabled, so there's a lot of benefits I get for school and stuff like that too. So I can kind of capitalize on all that stuff that I kind of procrastinated or neglected while I was in TA-wise.
And you should too, man. And I tell people that too. That's the other thing, is if your GI Bill runs out, you can still use the other one. What you said, the what's it called? Oh, voc rehab. You can use your voc rehab possibly to continue on your education, as long as it's a requirement for whatever job field you're going into. And I talk more about that on one of the very first video episodes I did with I did a SDSU VA rep came on and did an interview. So for anyone interested in that, go back and check that out. So the second thing I tell people to do is, like you said, you were reaching out to multiple companies. That's what you got to do. You can't just be like
4 or 5 different avenues I was looking at, either with AFSOC instructing, Coast Guard Special Missions instructing, some contracting, school stuff, getting into like InfoSec, and a bunch of different feelers out there. That were all positive.
Did you look at any kind of jobs in the private sector, or are you like strictly like government sector contractor kind of realm?
I did look at some in the private. Actually, one of the options I'm looking at right now is in the private sector with a signature reduction company that I'm considering doing instead of one of the contracting gigs. But I'm gonna wait and feel that out, and probably later on in July, and kind of make my decision on what I'm gonna go do.
Yeah, you're in that weird period right now, man, where you've been out for not even 2 weeks, so it's probably still kind of a daze, right? Like you're so used to going into work, going into PT or whatever, formation on Friday or whatever.
But it's been kind of weird too, because like of the COVID stuff, it's kind of like I've not been going to work since like March. So
oh really?
It's already kind of like, I mean, I was going in here and there, but I didn't really have a requirement to do anything. I was doing my left seat, right seat with the guy replacing me as company guns, and then it was kind of like no one needed to come into work unless they had to be coming into work. So it was kind of like a really weird transition out, because I hadn't been going to work already for a while.
And you're out at 2nd Recon, or you were out at 2nd Recon at that time, right? Out at Camp Lejeune.
Correct, yeah.
What was the what kind of big differences did you see between 1st and 2nd Recon Battalion?
Well, when I first got to 2nd Recon, there was I always had the horror stories when I was at first, like, don't go to 2nd, like, you're going to do, like, 50 pre-dives, and, like, you're next to the flagpole, so they can't get away with shit. And I was like, all right, great. And then I had orders to Oki, but I guess I never got any notification of them. That wasn't on my MOL or anything. It was kind of weird. The monitor never contacted the battalion. So 2nd Recon ended up calling 1st Recon. They're like, hey, where's Barlow? And they're like, I don't know. It's a team leader down at Force Company. What do you mean, where is he? They're like, he's supposed to check in like 2 weeks ago. And then we were all like, what the fuck? And so the monitor basically got in the kind of yelling match with the ops chief at the time. And he was like, I'm going to send someone else up there then. And then like 3 weeks later, I'd order us a second. So
out of nowhere.
Came here. Everyone freaked out. They're like, oh, dude, you're going to be fucked. I got out of here. And, yeah, it was an interesting change unit-wise. I loved the living condition change. I actually embraced living on the East Coast quite a bit.
Yeah.
Unit-wise, I felt like I was stepping back like 8 years, 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, it seemed because at that time at First Force we were doing lots of concealed carry stuff, like lots of black side RNS, lots of plainclothes stuff, Phase 0 stuff. We had brand new like EOTechs and 3-bys in our guns. We had painted guns. We had variable power optics for our M4s, like all these things, suppressors and stuff on our IARs. Like really like progressive thought on tactics and everything like that. And I got the second and it was like, we've got the old EOTechs that don't work. We're not allowed to do any of this and that. Like,
really?
I don't know. It just felt like I took a step back really far. And I was like, I even like, when I got my first team in the Force Company at second, I showed up, I was a team leader because I wasn't a staff sergeant yet, but I was a sergeant team leader in Force Company. And I was like, hey, I want to do off-base PT with my team because that was something I did with my team at First Force all the time. Like, we're going to go mountain bike or we're going to go kayak or something like that off base.
Yeah, something different.
It builds cohesion. It's like good workout. Like, it's a good thing to do. I said that, and they're like, get fucked. Like, what? Like,
who do you think you are?
I was like, why not?
You will not
like,
leave
what?
Courthouse Bay, sir.
Hell no. And I was like, okay, so this is how it's going to be. All right. I guess we'll go to Courthouse Bay Gym then.
Yeah.
Like,
that sucks, man. That's second, Camp Lejeune.
It's changed a lot now. It's a lot different now than when I showed up here.
Well, that's good.
Got different ops chief, different BC, different everything. So
those two changes right there, a battalion commander, a battalion opso, and an ops chief. Those three things can completely change the dynamic of an entire unit. You could be, like you said, like feeling like you've regressed and it's a little behind the times, a little more old school Marine Corps, I guess, more of the stupid games. Yeah. And then you get someone in like again, you said like the progressive thinking, like, hey, let's take the lessons learned, over these last few years and let's like apply some shit.
That's the problem with our community because it's always been like a fight for like, oh, we need to get the mission. We need to find our niche now that stuff has changed. Times have changed. Like, where does Recon fit in now? And I feel like at first Recon, it was like, we're really finding the niche we're going to fit in. We're going to make it work, and we're training to that. And at second Recon, I feel like it was always like, we're thinking about it, but we're not going to do it because that's dangerous. Yeah. And then, like, it was, everyone always talks shit on the other Recon units, like second Recon hates first Recon. Yeah. If you're like a dude that's been a second Recon your whole life, you're like, oh, first Recon's a bunch of Cali, whatever
bunch
the
of fucking cowboys.
Third Recon, like, fuck them. And it's like, well, like they're doing some good training. Like I did Task Force North with them, with the Border Patrol, with the New Zealand, all over South America, doing good shit. I was like, what are we doing at second? Like, what? Like, you can talk shit on them, but I mean, just doing jump packages and greenside RNS in the swamp. Like, what are you going to talk shit about?
Yeah.
Where's the progression?
Yeah.
Where's the new mission that you're going to set into? We're not doing greenside RNS.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. You definitely have to, like you said before, where does Recon fit in the picture? And I think that's a question a lot of people have, especially those on the outside looking in like me. You see, I would go on, I did 2 MEUs. I'm not going to bitch about the MEU anymore. I think my listeners have heard plenty of that. But me going over to the MEU and seeing the Recon element and knowing the amount of work you guys do, just going through BRC, just a basic training, just to get on a team. Then you get on a team, and then you go through your Recon like workup for the MEU, which is pretty heavy workup, and you're doing like
the Murph workup is pretty stringent.
Yeah, I mean you're doing shoot packages. You guys are boarding vessels out on the ocean. You guys are doing go plats, stuff like that.
Yep.
They're doing all this like stuff that you would expect to see a special operations team doing. but they never get the mission to go get to do any of that shit real world. And it, we'd be in CENTCOM floating around.
But that's because you have to look who they work for.
I know exactly. I completely understand, and that's kind of where I'm getting at. Like why do we have this like elite unit of people that have skills that are specialized, but we're not utilizing them because we're not putting them under the right command. You know what I'm saying? Like even on I think it was my second MEU. I was ashore, so I wasn't actually on the boat, but they had a craft that they were going to board, right? Recon guys get all ready to go do the VBSS, get everything, and then the Commodore, I think, was the one that called it off and was like, no, the Navy boarding team is going on, and they just like stood down the recon element and sent those dudes.
I think a MEU or two ago, they did a bunch of like uncontested board, or not a bunch, but a couple uncontested boards. I think the last like no shit was the Magellan Star.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually one of my platoon sergeants that was on that team, but I think in a perfect world, and like recon was based off Ranger doctrine, basically. I think in a perfect world, it would just be kind of aligned like the Army has it. You have SF, you have the Rangers, and then you have we'd have a force, like just call it a force reconnaissance company. They do DA and special reconnaissance, just like Ranger and Ranger Recon. And then you have your SF dudes like MARSEC to do your FID and your UW. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I don't know why it's been so. I mean, we already have reconnaissance down. We already have CQT down. Like that's drilled into us. That's like a based on battle space shaping, limited scale raids, and reconnaissance and surveillance. I mean, where's the confusion? It's because the Marine Corps is just the Marine Corps.
If someone was looking at lat moving and they were deciding between recon and MARSOC, what would you recommend? Let's say I'm a sergeant, I'm an admin sergeant, I'm in great shape, like I'm not worried about not passing. I could go to either one. Which one would you recommend somebody go to?
I honestly wouldn't know. I'd be like, hey, what are you interested in?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of my buddies went over to MARSOC and they've told me they either like it or they really don't like it. And a lot of people in the recon community like it or don't like it. It's really dependent. I mean, I can't be biased and say I would tell them to go recon, but I mean, there's pros and cons to both that are really good. I mean, you'll get schooled out, you'll get awesome experience, but I don't know. It really depends.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I mean, nowadays, right now, it's kind of a hard thing because MARSOC's not getting a lot of missions. Recon's not getting a lot of missions. It's kind of...
The wars are ending.
What side? I mean, it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, we're entering again into that like super garrison, time frame of the military where the guys you see that have done deployments are becoming fewer and far between, especially in the lower ranks, that private through sergeant kind of rank. Like, I don't know how many of those guys have a combat action ribbon now. You know what I'm saying? Not that means anything, but I'm saying like just going into a combat deployment, like it sucks. It sucks that all the institutional knowledge is slowly leaving. A lot of it's because the Marine Corps is retarded and people get tired of dealing with idiots at the top, so they get out, and some of it is just because guys are getting promoted out of cool job, doing the work and teaching and passing on their knowledge to now being first sergeants and freaking master guns where they're doing office work more so. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, man. Well, like, what other? Give me some. Like, can you give me any examples of kind of some of the training you said? Like, you said you went to New Zealand. You've been to South America and stuff like that. Are you doing mostly like, with like New Zealand and stuff? Their military is obviously a little bit more advanced than like probably some of the people in South America. I've worked with a couple of New Zealand dudes, and they all seemed all right. What kind of training would you do with someone like that compared to like our dudes down south of the border?
We worked with like the Kiwi Recce dudes and Kiwi SAS dudes with the Aussie. We went to Southern Katipo, so it was us, the Kiwis, the Aussies, the Canadians, the Papua New Guineans were there, which was a weird experience.
That is weird.
Brits. So that was a big multinational exercise. We got to do RNS down in the Southern Alps in New Zealand, which was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. It was miserable, but like the sun comes up in the morning and you're literally looking at like snow-capped Alps and like a pristine lake and river below you running through a mountain. Like, oh man, it was so good. And the people are so awesome.
Yeah.
In Brazil, we got to do like sniper shoots in the mountains. We did hellacious patrols on islands off the coast of Brazil in the jungle. And Chile, we did breaching on the beach and swam in through the Antarctic current, probably like 2.5 miles into a night raid. So like awesome experiences. I mean, yeah, you might not be picking and jabbing, banging and singing, but like joining is not like going to be a lost cause. You're still going to do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
You still have some cool stories and experiences. Get some awesome training.
Those are great times, man. Working with other countries, other national, other, their militaries and stuff. I don't think I've ever had a bad time working with a.
Yeah. Plus, you have the time off. You can go explore. I mean, don't join just wanting to travel, but like if you're gonna join, capitalize on the training. You want to deploy, you want to hook and jab, and you're able to like get all the training value out of the places you go, but at the same time enjoy the experiences
for sure
and be able to travel the world. I mean, why not? Like,
yeah. It's that's a huge thing for people that may not have joined that are watching this. Like, you can definitely travel quite a bit. I don't even know how many countries I've been to. I'd have to count them off. I mean,
over 20.
I think I'm probably close to 20, maybe just under 20. Yeah. But I've gotten to go to like Alaska. I was up in Alaska for a couple weeks, got to see the Northern Lights and shit like that. Like,
yeah, like I went to Norway and saw the Northern Lights, and I was blown away.
Dude, that's like something. I mean, I've seen pictures of it and I've seen videos of it, but until you see something like that in person, like that's just a whole nother experience. We were all getting ready to walk into a bar in Fairbanks, and it was me and a bunch of the infantry guys that we had. We were working on the ITV and the 120 millimeter mortar system in that little Jeep thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we were up there working on that, and we had some time off, so we were getting ready to go to a bar, and we were like walking in, and then someone's like, "Oh, look, the Northern Lights," and we'd all been like waiting to see it. Like none of us had seen it. And we like stop and look, and now we all look like tourists for like 15 minutes. We're all standing outside this bar.
What the?
Crazy, man. Just the waves, and it's just changing colors weird. And like, yeah. But it's like
I was in the middle of like nowhere in Norway in this town called Vol, and we had a tent on this dude's farm plot, and we're in the middle of the mountains, middle of nowhere in Norway, like way north, and the roads were all tiny and icy, and there's these like 1-lane bridges you had to drive over, and we were driving through the mountains, and it was night. And we literally pulled over and just looked at this shit. We were like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. Like, we've seen pictures and everything. It's a whole different thing to see it in person.
For sure.
And then you have one of those moments like we talked about earlier where you're like, damn, like, I'm here. Like, I'm in Norway. Like, when did I ever think I'd be in Norway on the side of a mountain in the middle of nowhere looking at the Northern Lights?
Yeah.
And kit, like, driving a Alfa Romeo.
Getting paid.
Stelvio. Like,
getting paid while you're doing it too, man.
Yep.
I would think back to the guys that I knew in high school and stuff that said they were going to join and they didn't, and then like what they're doing now, and then like enjoying the moment I'm in and being like, man, I wish more people back home or my family could see some of this stuff that you get to see, because it's not all the media and shit makes it out like we're all just in combat or all like robots marching around like morons. When in reality it's like going out with your homies, when you're TAD and shit, there's nothing better than a TAD trip with your buddies where you get some libo time.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Doesn't matter where you're at in the world. It's going to be a fun time.
Some of the best moments of my life.
Yeah.
I met my wife on deployment in Curacao, which was one of the coolest deployments I've been on.
To where?
And it was Curacao.
Where's that?
It's a Dutch island next to Aruba.
Oh, okay. What were you doing out there?
Some of the plainclothes stuff with the guys at SOCOM headquarters.
Cool. Gotcha.
And lo and behold, like I find a dolphin trainer in Curacao. Now she's my wife, and she immigrated here from Holland.
That's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. Now that you're out, well, let's shift gears a little bit. You are a big gun guy, right? So
Yes.
I think, and you can tell me what your thought on this. I think the rioting and the looting that we've seen over the last like week or two because of the George Floyd protests and stuff like that. I think those two things, the rioting and looting, and now local governments trying to say they're going to defund police. Shit. I think that has solidified the Second Amendment. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, in a sense, but at the same time, it's like two completely different trains of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like there's two sides. There's like the actual BLM movement.
Yeah.
And I feel like the BLM movement's kind of moved into what like the feminist movement was. Like, you have the group that had the initial idea and the message that needed to be spread, but now it's being taken over by just psychos
like
that want to have their 5 minutes of fame and like go fuck some shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And now you had all these people like, hey, the police departments need better training. Like, they don't have good de-escalation of force training, like escalation of force training, or like de-escalation training, or this and that, non-lethal training. And now it's like, oh, you're going to take $160 million from the police department. It's like, that's going to help real well with their training. Like,
no shit.
What's that thought process going? And now Minneapolis, like, disbanding their police. How do you think that's going to turn out?
Crazy,
what are you going to have, neighborhood watch, just like random people?
Yeah, they're talking about
the sheriff's department's going to be fucked because they're going to. It's going to turn into the sheriff's department's responsibility for everything.
I guess that's a thing that happened in Camden. I guess Camden, New Jersey, disbanded their police department, and people are like, "See, it worked in Camden," but it's like, no, all those dudes that
much smaller town.
No, well, that
also.
all, but almost. I don't think all, but I think a majority of the dudes that were let go from the Camden Police Department joined the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department is now has been increased by a shit ton and is now running, any kind of law enforcement within Camden. So it's like they didn't
it's gonna have to happen like that.
Yeah.
Because what are you gonna do? Like, they're gonna disband the police, and then all the same people rioting and looting are gonna be like, yeah, fucking police, they're all gone, and then they're gonna go continue that shit, and then you're gonna have twice the amount of people calling 911.
Yeah.
And who do you think's gonna show up? Oh, there's no more police. I guess the sheriff's department's gonna take it.
Yeah. It's mind blowing, man.
I don't understand.
Out here in LA, Los Angeles recently furloughed a shit ton of civilian people that worked for the Los Angeles Police Department because they couldn't afford to pay them, so they had to furlough all these workers. And now in LA, man, LA is like a shithole. Let's be honest. LA's full of like homeless people that are catching shit on fire and just like craziness, right?
Yeah.
That's why a ton of people are leaving LA, which is crazy.
It's completely wrecking Rodeo Drive. Like, give me some of these Gucci.
Yeah, and now they're saying they're going to take $150 million from their police department, which I didn't even realize that's a fucking ton of money. That I didn't realize their budget was even that big, $150 million bucks.
Ton.
But when you think about it, I think LA County has like 8 million people in it or something like that. So it's not like it's a small force.
The budget for LA SWAT's probably pretty hefty too.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it really sucks for the guys that are police officers right now. Like, I used to want to be a police officer.
That'd be a nightmare.
And I know a bunch of guys that are cops, and they're good dudes. And man, it's just a hate towards cops now. It's just like, God, man, I couldn't imagine being happy with my job doing that.
We have a couple of family friends that were, my dad's friends were family friends. They were LAPD detectives, like really good dudes, and. I get it. Like, you can't make the argument about the majority and the minority because the majority isn't reporting the minority or whatever you want to.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, like, you like think of me, for example, think of the military. Like, how many dudes do you like actually work with specifically that you would be able to report? I mean, you say, oh, there's 100 bad cops and 10 bad cops, but none of the 100 cops are reporting the 10 bad cops. But like, how many of the 100 cops do you think are even witnessing or experiencing the 10 bad cops doing bad things?
Yeah.
You think they're just like filming everything they do and showing it to everybody on YouTube, but it's like half the time it's like one or two people together, and it's 2020. They're already getting blasted on the internet, so it's not like they need anybody to report them.
Yeah, no shit. I
just don't get that.
I was talking to Joel Flores. He was on one of the previous episodes. He was my comm chief at Anglico, and he's now a police officer in Colorado. And he was talking about how they were detaining some dude on the side of the road. Something happened. I think this dude was drugged out or something crazy was happening, right? And it was like him and his partner trying to like detain a guy. and hold him down. Like you're basically wrestling him on the side of the road. And he's talking about how like this car just stopped in the middle of the street and the lady was like hanging out the window with her phone out to make sure she recorded it and was like yelling at him. And it's like, bitch, like we don't care if you record, but you got to get out of the fucking road. Like you can't just sit and impede traffic so that you can record us. It's just like people like that, man, that are just looking like, do something wrong. I'm going to record it. Do something wrong, you know? I don't know, man. Anyway.
The George Floyd situation was wrong.
For sure, 100%.
Like,
I think everybody I've ever heard even speak about it agrees with that. I haven't heard one person say that, well, you know, maybe he deserved it. You know, like not one person.
Also, I don't think it should be the cause of this racial like scream.
Yeah.
Because like if you look at the cops' rap sheet, I mean, we could look at both of the rap sheets. Like George Floyd has a rap sheet.
Yeah.
The cop has an anger rap sheet. Mm-hmm. And I 100% believe if George Floyd was a white dude, he would have done the same shit because he has a temper problem.
Yeah.
But then you look at the situation they were in, and he confronts a dude who's like, I mean, if you look at the investigation, the FBI investigation, the dude was like foaming at the mouth and like erratic and shit. And it's like, okay, as a police officer, if I walked on up on some dude that was suspected of doing whatever illegal, whether his money or whatever the thing was illegal, doesn't matter. If I walked up on a dude who was suspected of having counterfeit blah blah blah, and he's like foaming at the mouth and obviously on drugs, it's your civic duty to resolve the situation somehow and like investigate what the hell is going on. Otherwise, they're like, why is this cop letting this dude walk around on drugs on the street? Like, what's going on here? This dude could like fuck up someone's kid like walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But people want to like act like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they were profiling because he's black. It's like, no, they weren't profiling. He was literally like,
he was doing something wrong. The big thing though is that
profiling is also two different words.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
literally your job to profile people.
It is. Yeah. You're looking for criminals. You're looking for people that are doing bad shit.
Yeah.
I can side with people that think that we're starting to over police. You know what I'm saying? Like there might be too much over policing, and there may be police brutality, and it needs to be called out, and people need to be prosecuted.
I definitely think there's a big lack of training, and there's a ego problem with a lot of cops.
Yeah,
definitely.
I could see that for some. I don't know, maybe a lot. Yeah, probably. Who knows, man? It's a tough job, man. I wouldn't, like I said, I used to think it'd be cool, but job. I mean, you're talking.
I mean, people hate serving food in restaurants to people. Like, imagine being a cop and having to like dissolve situations with them.
Yeah. Or just
especially erratic people.
You just come upon bodies throughout the day because you get called to a suicide, or you get called to an OD, or you get called to a shootout. Yeah. You know, like
And imagine like some of the places, like you live in California. Like imagine working some of the bad places in LA. I mean, I would be looking at people under a microscope too.
Yeah. I mean,
because you're a cop walking through certain neighborhoods.
It's tough, man. Those dudes get killed all the time. Yeah, there's been quite a few cops killed. I mean, just this week, I think there's been like 5, something like that. But anyway, we went down kind of a rabbit hole there. But the whole reason I even brought it up was because of the whole Second Amendment thing. And I know you're a gun guy. So what would you say, what would you recommend to the average person that might be listening to this that doesn't really have a military background or anything? What kind of guns would you recommend for home defense?
I mean, I've got a couple handguns and stuff and some rifles for home defense. A lot of people obviously go to like a shotgun, like a cheap like 870 or a Moss 500 or something like that. Yeah. My biggest thing is like there's plenty of guns that are good for defending yourself. You have to choose the right ammo.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the end of the story. If I'm gonna be shooting in my house, I don't want to be shooting like green tip or like just like you want to be like. I'll be using like a Glock with like hollow points. Like I don't want my rounds going through the wall. You have to. I mean, for the military, know your target in this foreground background. And the worst thing that could happen is you have to defend yourself and end up hurting somebody
for sure
that wasn't even involved in it because you had like a bunch of like hunting rounds that were, or not even hunting rounds, but target rounds, whatever you have, full FMJs that just go straight through you from an M4 and
Yeah.
go into somebody's house,
Yeah.
hurt somebody else. So
That's definitely.
I'd say use whatever weapon system that you are the least intimidated by, the most comfortable with. Learn to use it well, and use the proper ammunition in whatever situation you want to use the weapon in.
How often do you go shoot on your own time?
A lot.
Yeah.
Weekly.
Yeah. And that's too. I mean, and did you do that while you were in the military as well?
Yeah. I mean, especially once I moved to North Carolina, because I can shoot in my backyard now.
Yeah.
It's not like California here.
Oh, for sure, dude.
And then I'm also I'm on the Recon Sniper Foundation USPSA shooting team. So
oh, sick! I didn't know that.
Be out doing some blasting for that. I usually shoot pistol for that, some 2-gun.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that even you, as a professional who shoots probably more than 99% of America, still goes out and shoots even more. Like, you can never shoot too much, is what I'm getting at. You know, practice with the gun, the gun you plan on using.
Hey, I mean, even if you don't have a range, 80% is dry fire.
Yeah.
You need the muscle memory. Like, you can shoot and learn the recoil, but like, if you only shoot every once in a while live fire, you're gonna suck just as much. You need to do the dry fire
For sure.
Dry fire and live fire.
Yeah,
that's the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do your draw. You can do your sight picture, sight alignment. You can do your trigger control. Everything dry fire. You don't even need to do live. And people neglect that quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's just the fundamentals.
Huge training advantage. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah. Man, so now you're out. You're just living life like a regular old dude, man. It's just kind of weird, right?
It is.
It's I talked to Alex and Enos, who was a FDC guy, and he got out in, I want to say he started terminal in like February or January, like right when this whole coronavirus thing kicked off. So like all his plans for getting out have just been, thrown to the wind. And I when we were talking, and I tried to use that as a learning lesson a learning lesson to say, like, hey, look, man, whatever you have planned for when you get out, it might not work out that way. Like, have multiple plans. You can't
secondary, tertiary.
Save some cash up. Try to get on a deployment. That last year you're in, try to jump on a deployment because that's the best way to save up some cash. And then just, throw out as many feelers as you can. Networking is huge. Yeah, man. It's just it's a weird world out here, and no one cares. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a like upper level, like reconnaissance dude, and you're gonna get the same kind of like respect as a veteran as like some lance corporal that worked at IPAC his entire time. No one knows.
Basically,
no one knows.
Yeah.
They automatically think he was doing the same shit that you were doing. They all like think that we're all in combat.
You're a Marine, so is this other guy.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's pretty wild. So shifting gears, play on words here. You got rid of your Evo, huh?
Yep.
Why'd you do that for, huh?
Well, once my Duchess was finally planning on flying here, she also planned on bringing her horse here, so we needed a vehicle that could be capable of pulling a horse trailer. So I thought, well, there's not that many pickup trucks that I'm super fond of. So I ended up going with that Audi Q7 with the turbo diesel.
Yeah.
So it's pretty dope. Yeah, I like it a lot.
How's the reaction on that with the diesel? Does it take a second for it to get power?
No, it's pretty torquey.
Yeah.
It's a 6-cylinder twin turbo, but it's probably, I think it's like 300 and something horsepower, but like 480 or 500 foot-pounds of torque.
Oh,
so
shit.
I mean, it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like it better than the Evo?
No.
What all did you have done to your Evo? I don't remember.
Did I ever send you the videos of when I tuned it myself?
No. I remember when you got the camera, the camera for inside your car, and you started making some videos then.
That
but
was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have the videos. I'll send you. But I never did anything crazy. I never went past stock turbo or anything. I had full bolt-ons, full suspension stuff done. I had that full race cage shift set up. Sways, interior stuff, and then I dabbled into tuning myself, and that's when I made my own like cannonball tune for it, which was completely outrageous. And then I finally got your damn ETS V2 Extremes on it.
Oh yeah.
And that's when I made that crazy tune for it. And I caused an active shooter alert at the high school here, which is crazy. When I was testing it, because my house is right behind a high school, and I was like going up and down the highway.
Boom!
It was loud. It was loud. I was like, whoa, this isn't just like burble tune. This is literally like, pow, 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 pow.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
that V2 Extreme, man. That's the ETS V2 Extreme exhaust is great. I loved it.
It was awesome. I
remember putting mine on my car, and me and my buddy Wasson were at his house, and we put it on, and we were in his garage, and I'm like, all right, fire it up. I hadn't heard it yet. Fire it up. And he's like, whoa, and it's just like so loud. I'm like, oh shit, like I may have went overboard. That may have been too much. It wasn't as loud when we pulled it out of the garage, but it was still pretty fucking loud. One of my neighbors, I would go to the I would go to the car meets like every Sunday morning, when they would do the early morning meets. I would go to Cars and Coffee and stuff like that, which starts at like 7, 8 o'clock on Sunday. So I'd get out there like.
And you had a high flow cat on yours, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I went like full.
Oh, really?
Non-resonated, no cat.
Yeah.
Like it was deafening.
Yeah, I threw the high flow cat on it because I didn't know if I'd be able to pass North Carolina smog. But I could have without it. I could have gone without it, but whatever.
Yeah. I just went to Chico's, dude. It was all good.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to keep my Evo. I ended up selling it and getting a Jeep. I wanted to keep it, but I had North Carolina plates on it still because when you're in the military and you move, to California, you're supposed to get a smog out here, but I kept my plates from out there so I didn't have to because there was no way that car was going to pass a smog here in California. And then when I got out, they're like, hey, like North Carolina's like, you can't have these plates anymore. So I had to get California plates.
Yeah, so to get the initial inspection, registration, everything.
Yeah, you have to go get a smog done. And I knew a guy, I was going to go get a hot smog. And it was like $350, and for reference, I think the smog is normally like $40 out here. But it was like $350 and, you're obviously supposed to pass. And I took it to the guy, and I guess California changed some law, and there was something in the system where they couldn't even give me like a hot smog. They're like, you're going to have to swap this out to this. The sensor is turned off for whatever reason. And And I was like, dude, this is going to cost me thousands of dollars to like get it back to where it can pass a smog and get California plates. And I was like, it's just not going to be the same car, And that's when I decided to get rid of it because I was at 75,000 miles. So I was like, man, if stuff's going to start breaking, it's going to probably start breaking soon. And everything on this is
That's
expensive.
Exactly where I was at with my car, too.
Yeah.
I was getting up into those high miles, and I was like, maybe this is a good time to get rid of it. I'm looking at getting an RS5 or a TTRS or an RS3 now. Yeah. So, it'll still be a nice upgrade from the Evo. RS5 would be dope. I kind of want an RS3 because of the 5-cylinder turbo or a TTRS because it's 5-cylinder turbo.
I'd love to get...
But the inside of the car is just a really nice place to be.
I'd love to get an M5. That'd be sick,
Yeah, I don't know about the M5 is a big boy.
It's fast,
I would probably get an M2. I'd get an M2 or an M4, but I don't know about an M5.
Yeah. Do they even make M3s anymore, or is that gone by the wayside?
Yeah, they still make M3s.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I looked around. I ended up getting a Jeep, just because I was like, you know what? I'm going to be camping more. I'm going to be hiking more now that I'm out. And, as you get older, I'm driving an Evo around and going to the car meets is not the same because it's like younger dudes. It's like, and it just, so it becomes
it's like all the pickup trucks doing burnouts and people being retarded.
Yeah.
Turn into like a different thing.
I've tried to talk about, or I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but like people that haven't been there can't realize like how big some of these car meets in California are.
Oh man, some of the ones. We had some massive ones near the good days. Next to the Naval Hospital.
Oh yeah, you used to come out to those. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, we switched up the parking garages every time. But
yeah.
We had the ones out by the air station. That one's good. The one I think
the Thursday meet. The Thursday meets down in like Mira Mesa or something like that, wherever that area. Yeah. The kid that would set those up, that hundreds of cars would come out to that. It would be the last Thursday of the month or something like that. The kid that would set that up though, that would like hundreds of cars are coming out, like 19. He would just And then
he was the guy with that 370Z or something, didn't he?
Well, when I first met him, he had an Eclipse, some shitty Eclipse. He had some shitty car, but he just loved cars, and he was a social media guy, And then I think he bought some GoPros and stuff like that. So then the car meets out, like, we would go and everyone would be out there till like 11 o'clock at night or whatever. And then dudes would start around that time frame. Dudes would start being like, all right, who wants to race? They'd start setting up the races and shit. Yeah. And old boy would put GoPros and the different cars that were racing. And then everybody would head out to the 15 or the 805, whichever one was closer, and just start running up the freeway. And, yeah, man, like that's shit. Like when I was at Camp Lejeune, we thought it was cool when we could get like 10 guys together at one time. We're like, oh man, look at all these cars that came out. And out here it's like hundreds and thousands, like literally thousands of cars coming out. Did you ever make it to one of the Krispy Kreme Tuesday car meets?
I don't think so.
It was like a flash mob kind of deal they would do down in San Diego. I think they did a couple up by LA too.
No.
Yeah,
I went to some of the SD Evo meets down in San Diego, which were pretty awesome. We'd have like 50 or 60 Evos down there.
Yeah.
We had Dave and Buster's underneath the highway.
Yeah, I went to the Dave and Buster's one once. Yeah, man.
That was pretty good.
Stuff like that is stuff that I think more people need to do while they're in the military, or realize you got to have a good hobby, And
hey, give me a minute and a half and put these dogs up real quick.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Sweet. Oh, I'm back.
All right.
But yeah, I missed the car scene out there. I missed the bike scene out there. Riding motorcycles in Cali was the most awesome time ever.
Yeah, I forgot you were a bike guy. Well, you had a pretty nice bike, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got a Aprilia. I still have it. Yeah, Aprilia.
Yeah.
$1,000 factory.
Yeah. Yeah. Every weekend
I brought it to a couple of car meets.
Yeah, I remember you bringing it out. I think I probably got a photo or two of it laying around somewhere.
Yeah, I've got it. I think you sent it to me.
But yeah, like we were saying, the car scene though. Every weekend you can go out and see like once in a lifetime cars. You may see once in a lifetime anywhere else in the country, but here in Southern California, I remember going to a meet and there was like I think it was is it Porsche 870? Not the 870, the one that's the hybrid.
Oh, the 918.
918 is a 918?
918
Spider.
Yeah,
two of them sitting next to each other at South Orange County Cars and Coffee.
$800,000 car.
That's what I'm saying, man. And across from it's an F40, an F40 Ferrari. So there's $1 million.
So I would shit myself if I saw an F40 in person. An 918, I'd be like, that's really cool. But if I saw an F40, I'd be like, yo, who are you?
Yeah, dude.
How do you have this car?
South OC Cars and Coffee, like that's the place you're gonna see just millions of dollars of cars, and it's at the San Clemente, what's that called? The fucking discount mall or whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking. Outlet Mall. At the San Clemente Outlet Mall, they do that every Saturday or Sunday. I think they just started it up again since Corona, the whole Corona thing. But yeah, dude, yeah. The crazy old school Woodies, like the all wood Woodies, like it's cool, man. It's something I definitely try to take advantage of. And what I was saying before is like I think people need a hobby. You know what I'm saying? I think too many people get wrapped up in work and don't do something that's like a escape from work. Even if like you go shooting a lot, that's not a work thing, but it improves probably some of the stuff you do at work. You know what I'm saying? But it's separate from it. It's something you can just go out and do on your own.
It's still finding a big group of people who have similar interests with you, and it's also a fun time. You go socialize with people and like share your interests with random people. That's a lot of things people aren't doing anymore. Like people don't go have conversations with random people anymore. It's like you're on your cell phone, like looking at Facebook or Instagram or some shit. You never like go out and socialize unless it's in a bar or something like that.
Even then, though, people are still,
You stick to your little group and like.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the military, man, is that you're just forced to be around
Definitely.
people, and a lot of times you don't have any electronics, so there's no distractions.
Yeah.
It's just straight good conversation with people. You really learn like who people are.
It reminds you of how it was when you were a kid, and it was like, I have to be home before the street lights turn on.
Yeah.
And like, I can't call my parents. I can't call my friend. We have to meet up at this spot at this time. Like,
Yeah, for sure. I tried to tell my kid that, like, oh, look, there's a payphone. That's what we used to. I was telling him how I used to, when I was at like the skating rink when I was a kid, I needed to get a hold of my mom. Yeah. I would dial like the number to call them where they would have to pay, where call collect. And instead of be like, say your name now, be like, Mom, come get me. Like that would be. Yeah. And then you just wait, like, I hope she got that. And then you wait like 30 minutes. Oh, your mom's here. Yeah. It was a different world, man. Yeah. Well, I don't want to feel like we're dragging on. Is there anything that you want to talk about from like your career that maybe we didn't touch on, or anything that you think of note, or are there any organizations that you want to, promote or anything like that?
I think we covered pretty much all the stuff from work. I do want to give a good shout out to the Recon Sniper Foundation. We've got shooting teams. I mean, it's open to all vets. You don't have to be a Recon Marine or anything. We've got grunts and snipers and even other MOSs that are on it.
Even the Pogues?
Oh yeah.
Us Pogues need love too.
It's an awesome. You don't have to be like an insane shooter. It's awesome group of, like, lots of us are into guns, lots of guys are into guns. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like you want to be better and you don't want to pay a bunch of money to go to some crazy shooting course, like, just start shooting with one of the teams. I mean, get better at it. Everyone will coach you. And it's like, everyone thinks like, I can't go to a competition because I'm not good, but a lot of the times the competition is just a group of guys hanging out. Like, you bullshit a lot. It's not like you're going to like the national championship match and like everything's on you. It's just a group of guys. We hang out, shoot, have fun, and that's for a good cause. So
that's cool, man. Is there a way do people donate to that, or is there a way to support that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the best way to like see the group itself is either on Facebook or Instagram, like Team Recon Sniper Foundation, or just Recon Sniper Foundation. It's on Facebook as well. And it's a really good group of guys, and it's all about the brotherhood and helping people out when they need it.
That's sick, man.
To shoot if you want. Yeah.
That's one of those things, man. It's when people get out, I try to tell people, like, you got to get something that, gives you some kind of satisfaction. You know what I'm saying? Some kind of personal.
It's a good network. It's the same community of guys that you're used to being around, but you can still reach out. It's after the fact.
Yeah, so for sure. People to talk to that have shared experiences and stuff like that. Like, more people need to get involved in stuff like that, I think, when they get out. I'm lucky enough where I'm doing this podcast, so I get to talk to you guys, different people all the time and just kind of share experiences. So for me, that makes it
reminisce.
Easy. Yeah, exactly. And, that's funny. You say reminisce. Like, a lot of guys I interview, especially older dudes, tell me just talking about it. These guys are all out. Just talking about it brings up a lot of memories of stuff they hadn't thought about in years, of like dudes they hadn't thought about.
That's the real therapy.
For sure. 100%.
I mean, a lot of people say, oh, he should have talked to so-and-so or talked to so-and-so. It's like, no, talking to your brothers is the best therapy. A lot of dudes get reclusive and just kind of like don't hit people up anymore. And it's not like nothing against them, but you always have your brothers there.
For sure, man.
Somewhere.
It's 2020, man. There's no reason for dudes not to reach out to each other and just shoot a text, even if the dude doesn't respond. Just say, "What's up? Hope you're doing well." Because people appreciate that kind of stuff, and that's the way you always, veteran suicide and stuff like that. We're never going to get rid of it. It's always going to happen, just because suicide's always going to happen. But reaching out to people and people knowing that someone is thinking about them, that right there is enough to keep someone, from doing something that they shouldn't.
Exactly.
So. Yeah. But yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, it's been a good time. I'll have to have you come back on in a couple months. You can tell us what you're doing out here in the real world. Yeah. So, do you want to put out your social media or anything like that? I'll leave it on you if that's something you want to do. If so, I'll tag you in the post too.
I mean, I'll throw out my Instagram, I guess, Alex Pascal 321. If you want to see some stuff that I do with Recon Sniper Foundation shooting team, or Making knives now, blacksmithing. If you want to get into that,
For sure, dude.
I can hook you up on how to get started with all that stuff. But
The amateur blacksmith, that's pretty legit.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a really good outlet.
How'd you get into that before we get off here?
I watched Forge and Fire for many years.
Oh, really?
Finally got off my ass and I was like, I'm going to try it out.
I'm going to go out here.
Surprisingly, it wasn't. After watching the show for so long, it's actually like you learn actually a lot. And then when you try and do it yourself, it's like, okay, well, this is attainable. It's fairly inexpensive. It's not super bad to get into.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than reloading. I tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet, man. Reloading, getting set up and reloading is definitely a pricey, to get into it. But
it's meditative, but I kind of went away from it and started blacksmithing just because it was a way better outlet, I guess, for me.
Yeah. Well, you're pounding away at something, man. You can take out all that aggression.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Well, again, like I said, I appreciate you coming on the show. For everyone out there watching, hit him up on his Instagram. You can hit me up at jkramergraphics.com or at my Instagram, Former Action Guys, or jkramergraphics. Both of those Instagrams work. And yeah, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave any comments. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll let Alex know if there's any questions, and he can come on there and spit some knowledge. But yeah, man, I appreciate it, and good luck with your medical retirement.
Good talking to you, man.
For sure, dude. It's been too long.
We'll
have to keep up.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You as well.
Later.
Bye.